Gamers are not stupid. No matter what the mainstream media or developers try to tell you, people are not blindly supporting products anymore, and it's losing them a boatload of money. And now, following reports of Dustborn receiving funding from the EU, people have dug and found out that actually the US government spent over $250,000 on a quote counter-disinformation game. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, gamers are doing their due diligence. When a game is announced, people are searching it, we are researching, we are trying our best to make sure it's a product that we through and through want to support. Otherwise, what's the point to give companies money if they have developers on their team that absolutely hate you? Same thing with journos at mainstream websites like Kotaku or Polygon. Why would we read an article off their website when we can simply get an archive and not give them clicks, which leads to revenue? And now, following reports of Dustborn receiving funding from the EU, people have done quite a bit of research, and we're finding out that the US government has spent $250,000 on a counter-disinformation game. It says, in the wake of Red Thread Games releasing Dustborn, it was revealed the developer received funding from the European Union as well as the Norwegian Film Institute. Now, this isn't really shocking, just seeing the game itself. Because we have seen a lot of governments funding projects, whether it is movies or, in this case, video games, that do counter certain narratives. And looking at Dustborn, it is a propaganda-filled game. That's all that it really exists to be. And it's unfortunate that we are now finding out that our money is being used to fund trash like this. It says now it's being reported that the US government spent over $250,000 on a counter-disinformation game. So, starting with some posts by Mark Kern, it says Dustborn used far more government money than has previously been reported. The Norwegian Film Institute funded the game for nearly 1.4 million USD. This is in addition to 150,000 euros from the Creative EU grant program. I mean, this game, if you can even call it that, is basically just an Antifa simulator. It is absolutely ridiculous from the trash gameplay, the little bit that you get. 98% of the title is you just going around talking. You are triggering people. You are canceling people. If I didn't know any better, I would think that it is a parody because it is so blatantly obvious what they are pushing in your face. I mean, they meme on 1984 in the game. It is an alternate reality where JFK was not assassinated, and he basically starts up this program of the justice system where you have militia that are going around policing people, telling them their curfews, telling them what they can and cannot do, where they can and cannot go. And it's just an absolutely ridiculous game all around that has really nothing to offer except for it's like an Antifa training simulator. Now, following that initial report, we were also finding out that while everyone is laughing at Norway and the EU for funding Dustborn, a quick search shows that the US also provided $275,000 of funding for a, quote, new counter-disinformation game, and that has been released. We do know what it is, and that is called Cat Park. The State Department explained Cat Park builds on the success of the first game funded by GEC, Harmony Square. Cat Park inoculates players against real-world disinformation by showing how sensational headlines, memes, and manipulated media can be used to advance conspiracy theories and incite real-world violence. The game, now available in English, Dutch, French, and Russian, helps players discern between reliable and unreliable information. I mean, this game functions as propaganda for behavioral change, with the goal of convincing young people worldwide that content online is automatically considered disinformation. They want people to believe that opposing the government is only done by disinformation purveyors, and that is what people are going to be upset at. You are not creating entertainment here. You are just creating straight up government propaganda, and that is not going to go over well. And this is the problem. Things slip through the cracks. Nobody knew about this until now when we're searching up a game like Dustborn. And while, of course, the US government did not directly fund Dustborn, as far as we know, they didn't give them money at least, we are seeing other titles released like this where, yes, it really doesn't look like a video game. It looks like an animated poster that says, oh my gosh, stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. But at the same time, it still exists and they still are trying to push it onto people to, again, quote, find misinformation within the game. And you're fighting against that. You're trying to figure out what is right from wrong, what is the truth, which is, of course, absolute fucking insanity. But we have seen over the years the State Department fund similar things to this, but also back initiatives that fight things like hate speech online. They say that video games are a hub for hate and harassment, which is insanity. Any group online can be filled with toxicity or hatred. But when it comes to video games, they have always been a target because there are so many people within, government who dislike the content that younger kids and adults are getting their hands on. They think that violent content is disgusting and it should not exist. And of course, they can't outright say that video games should not exist because that's never going to work in the United States. But that doesn't mean they still can't attack them and attack the people playing them. We hear constantly that violence in video games causes violence in real life, even though there are plethoras of studies that show the opposite, that video games are actually good because they are a way for you to express yourself. It's the same as painting or drawing or reading. You are just finding a form of escapism, and that's what video games should be at the end of the day, are escapism. And yes, sometimes they can include very heavy or intense themes and imagery, but there are more studies, significantly more, that say that violence in video games do not cause violence in real life and that they are a positive factor in people's lives. And these studies that typically say, oh my gosh, there's a correlation, are skewed and not honest ones that you should believe, that's for sure. But this is extremely disheartening to hear because these are your taxpayer dollars going to blatant propaganda and straight up bullshit. This should not be happening. We should not have organizations that specifically want to push things like this onto people, and you should not be co-opting video games as a way to try to convince people of what you want them to believe. I mean, am I shocked that this is happening? Absolutely not. Now, if they have spent more money, we do not know, but we do know that that was $275,000 down the freaking toilet. And it will be interesting to see, now that so many people are looking into government funding because of Dustborn and because of Cat Park, this counter-disinformation game, if there are other instances like this, and I'm sure that there are plenty that we haven't seen and that have slipped through the cracks and that we haven't heard much about. And of course, I will be keeping my eye on this and doing some research myself. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.